Why do so many Spanish words start with the letters AL? How did the French language sneak into American courtrooms? And why do so many lakes in English translate to lake? Hi, I'm Pia. Today I'm here to talk about loanwords, a category of words you may not have heard of, but definitely use. If you love words, loaned or otherwise, subscribe down here for more videos like this. It'd be hard to come up with a comprehensive list of loanwords. Depending on exactly how you define the term, loanwords in English could include agriculture, booze, czar, bungalow, the list goes on and on. Anytime one language borrows a word from another language and makes it its own, a loanword is created. Sometimes a language just doesn't have a word for a concept or object. Think back a few hundred years before international travel was widely available. If a food like gelato wasn't eaten in your country or an animal like skunk wasn't native to your part of the world, you would need to create a unique term for those concepts. There was a time when most of the world didn't know what algebra was. Not the word, but the entire branch of mathematics. Once it spread throughout the world though, people found it pretty useful. Many languages ended up using the form of the original Arabic term to refer to its branch of math. This can be largely traced to a single publication from the 9th century, which can be translated as something like the Compendium on Calculations by Restoring and Balancing. Part of the title, algebra, can be somewhat poetically translated as the reunion of the broken parts. In English, we have algebra, in French, we have algèbre, and in Spanish, we have álgebra. Spanish actually borrowed a lot of other words from Arabic, including almohada, algodón, and albahaca. That pattern is no accident. Al is an article in Arabic, like the in English. Those AL loanwords all had to adapt their spellings and usage to fit their new linguistic homes. But sometimes loanwords arrive in the exact same form they began. I should point out that some experts say that these exact replicas no longer count as loanwords. It's a matter of debate. But it's definitely a cool example how languages influence one another, so we're gonna go ahead and talk about it. Guacamole and joie de vivre came to English unchanged from Spanish and French. But guacamole actually came to Spanish as a loanword from Nahuatl, a Central American language. It basically means avocado sauce. Checks out. If you see a bunch of loanwords from a single language in one area of life, there's a good chance there's a historical explanation. Take the American legal system. You could probably guess force majeure and voir dire are French. And what about attorney, defendant, plaintiff? Those and so many others also come from French. And it's pretty easy to trace the French influence from the Norman conquest to England to the American legal system. And you could say the cousins of loanwords are cogs, also known as loan translations. These are words and phrases that originate in another language but survive as translations in their adopted language. Flea market and moment of truth are common English phrases that come from translating French and Spanish terms. And sometimes when we don't translate the borrowed word, we create some unintended redundancy. Naan bread is basically bread. Chai tea, tea. So is that an error? It's tough to say. If I go into a coffee shop here in the US and order a chai tea, they'll know that I want a version of masala chai, not just any old cup of tea. Mistake? New meaning? Both? Geographical features are a great place to find these redundant names known as tautologies. Gobi Desert is the desert. Mount Kilimanjaro is mountain. And Lake Tahoe, Laguna Lake, and Lake Chad are essentially lake. Languages are fluid. They meet, mix, and learn from one another all the time. If you're ready to learn, try out Babbel. You can get 2 lessons for free. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned loads. See you next time!